Salvete omnes. Before we begin, I'd like to give a shout out to my patrons. Thank you so much for your support. If you're a huge Harry Potter fan, that can actually help you learn Latin, since the incantations used in the book were mostly derived from Latin. And actually, many of the characters' names also come from Latin. Albus, as in Albus Dumbledore, means white in Latin. So can you guess what White House would be? Remember, the word for house is weird. Domus alba. Domus looks like a masculine word, but is actually feminine, like casa. You might already know that draco, or draco in Latin, means dragon, or exotic snake, since this is a constellation. We learned the plural version of this word in the cool phrase, hic sunt dracones. Here be dragons. The professor of astronomy was named Arora Sinistra, which are actually both Latin words. If you are following the lessons, you know what this means. Flecte ad sinistram. Turn to the left. And aurora means dawn or sunrise. So aurora borealis really means northern dawn. The final name, Severus Snape, is pretty obvious and on the nose. What do you think this means? Esne pater tuus Severus? Is your father strict? Severus means things like severe, strict, harsh, etc. Another curious thing to note is that the name Harry Potter itself has a source, though it's not Latin. The main character of James and the Giant Peach by Roald Dahl is named Henry James Trotter, and Harry's full name is Harry James Potter. Maybe it's just a coincidence, however, there are also other similarities between the books. But on to the Latin spells. Probably the most used spell in this series is lumos, in which a small light appears at the end of the caster's wand. This most likely came from the Latin lumen, light. For example, lumen video. I see a light. The subject and object form of this word are the same, lumen. Another common spell was used to call an object to the caster, like Accio Firebolt, which Harry used to summon his Quidditch broom. This is a Latin verb, accio. I summon. However, this isn't that common of a word. The spell that is used most in dueling is Expelliarmus. And hilariously, as you can see here, when Harry fought Voldemort, he was using this spell even though Voldemort was using the killing curse. This is almost a Latin phrase. The Latin phrase could be something like Expello armus. I banish the weapon. The next spell is a Latin phrase, fīnīte incantātum. Fīnīte is the plural imperative of finio, meaning to finish or terminate, and incantātum is the participle form of incanto, which means to enchant, so incantātum means enchantment. Thus, fīnīte incantātum together is a command meaning terminate the enchantment. In the series, this is a general counterspell used to terminate all spell effects, and is used by Snape to cancel the effects of the spells when Malfoy and Harry duel. The next spell is a tickling charm that Harry used on Malfoy during the dueling club. Rictusempra. This is a combination of semper, which means always, and rictus, which describes the gaping of the mouth from laughing or yawning. This is also a word in English meaning a fixed grimace. Semper is the more important word to know and is contained in the motto of the Marines, Semper Fidelis, ever faithful. This word fidelis gives us the word fidelity in English. If you remember, near the end of the Chamber of Secrets, Gilderoy Lockhart tries to cast the Obliviate charm with Ron's broken wand, and it ends up backfiring on him. This comes from a weird word whose first-person form is obliviscor, which, as you can see, doesn't end in an O, even though this means I forget. But the most useful form to learn is obliviscere. Forget about it. This is the command form. Another spell that is a Latin phrase is expecto patronum. Expecto means I wait for, or I expect, as you'd expect. And patronus means patron or protector. So together this means I wait for a protector, which is what wizards do when they cast this spell to fight off dementors. The Cruciatus curse is cast by saying crucio, or in Latin crucio, meaning I crucify or torture. This is more often used in Latin with the prefix ex, as in captus excruciabat. He was torturing the prisoners. You see the connections? Prisoners are captured people, and to torture someone is to put them in excruciating pain. Another dark art spell is the Imperius curse, cast by saying Imperio. This comes from the Latin impero, meaning I command or give orders to. Remember, this is the spell that allows wizards to control others. An easy use of this verb is impera tibi. Rule yourself or control yourself. Do you see? Impera is the imperative or command form. This is where that word comes from. There are, of course, other spells, but these are the ones we can learn the most from. I think it's really cool that there are enough connections between Latin and English that we could still understand these spells, even though some were actual Latin phrases. But other languages aren't so lucky. In the Japanese translation of the Harry Potter books, the Latin-derived spell would be written followed by the meaning in Japanese. For example, it would say, Rumosu, Hikario. Since the Japanese language has no ties to Latin, they would not be able to understand the incantations the way English speakers can. What about in your language? If a similar thing was done in the version you read, let everyone know in the comments below. See you next time. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share, and if you can, help support the channel on Patreon. Gratias!